The train compartment was nearly empty, save for a few scattered passengers tucked into corners, their eyes lost in paperbacks or pressed against the glass, watching the countryside unfurl. I slid into my seat by the window, cradling a lukewarm coffee and the weight of another sleepless night. The world outside blurred in hues of yellow and green as we pulled out of the station. I hadn't spoken to anyone all morning, and I preferred it that way. The quiet gave me space to think, or at least pretend that the ache in my chest wasn't growing louder with every passing mile. Asterisk, I was headed to a city I didn't know, for a job I wasn't sure I wanted, leaving behind an apartment I'd once shared with someone who taught me how fast a heart can crack. It had been months since he'd left, no warning, no apology, just silence. Still, I caught myself checking my phone, a habit that hadn't yet died. Asterisk, the door at the end of the carriage hissed open, and I heard footsteps unhurried, confident. I didn't look up right away. It wasn't until he sat in the seat across from me that I noticed him, asterisk, tall, sharp-featured, with dark curls falling over his forehead. He dropped his bag beside him and gave me a brief, polite smile. I nodded, barely acknowledging it. But something about the way he settled into his seat, teasing into the silence like it belonged to him, made me feel strangely aware of the space between us. Asterisk, the train jolted slightly as we picked up speed, and the stranger glanced out the window, then back at me. Heading far? He asked, his voice low and smooth, like a question not meant to be answered. Asterisk, I hesitated before replying. A few hours. Asterisk, he nodded, smiled again, more to himself this time. Same. Asterisk, there was something disarming about him, the kind of ease that made strangers share secrets before they even knew why. I didn't intend to say more, but the silence between us turned too thick, so I asked, business or something else? Asterisk, he leaned back, resting an arm on the back of the seat. A little of both. Mostly trying to escape the noise. Asterisk, I raised an eyebrow. You picked a good place, then? Quietest train I've been on in months. Asterisk, he chuckled. Or maybe we're just the only ones running away today. Asterisk, I didn't know what to say to that. Maybe he meant it as a joke, but it landed too close to the truth. I sipped my coffee to buy time. And what are you running from? Asterisk, he tilted his head, considering me. I'll tell you if you tell me. Asterisk, I smiled, despite myself. You? First, asterisk, all right, he said, folding his arms. I'm running from a life that looks perfect on paper. But when I wake up in the morning, I don't recognize any of it, and you? Asterisk, I looked down at my hands. A past that keeps finding ways to follow me. Asterisk, he nodded like he understood. Maybe he did. Maybe we were both sitting there with stories too heavy to unpack between stations. But there was something comforting in the company of someone who wasn't asking for details. Asterisk, a moment passed. Then he leaned forward slightly, his eyes catching the golden light spilling through the window. What's your name? Asterisk. Eli. Asterisk, nice. To meet you, Eli. He paused, then smiled again. Just call me Jay. Asterisk, I blinked. Mysterious much? Asterisk, he laughed, the sound quiet and warm. Maybe I just like to keep things simple. Asterisk, Jay didn't press for more, and I didn't offer. Still, our conversation drifted on books we liked, places we'd been, childhood memories that somehow floated up through the cracks. It was easy, strangely so. Like we'd known each other in another life and had just remembered. Asterisk, as the train passed through a long stretch of forest, the sunlight flickered like a broken reel of film. He shifted slightly, his knee brushing against mine. Neither of us moved away. Asterisk, eventually, he pulled out a small notebook and began scribbling something, occasionally pausing to look out the window. I wanted to ask what he was writing, but didn't. Instead, I watched him in the reflection of the glass, the lines of his face softened by the movement of the train, and wondered how someone could feel so familiar in such a short time. Asterisk, the sky outside darkened slightly as we entered a tunnel, the world folding into itself for a moment. In the brief darkness, I felt him look at me. I turned, and there he was, smiling gently, not saying a word. Asterisk, when the light returned, he looked away as if nothing had passed between us, but something had. A current, a flicker, a beginning. I didn't know what it meant or if it would mean anything at all. But for the first time in a long time, the ache in my chest quieted just a little and that somehow felt like the start of something I didn't yet have the words for. The train rumbled on, slicing through open fields and distant towns, but time inside the carriage seemed to shift, soften. Jay had moved to the seat beside me, uninvited yet welcome. His presence felt oddly natural, like he belonged there, not just in that seat, but next to me. In that moment, we talked with the ease of two people who didn't owe each other anything. The conversation danced between lighthearted and unexpectedly personal. Jay told me about his childhood in a coastal town, how he used to sneak out at night to sit by the sea, pretending the waves could carry his thoughts somewhere far away. His eyes lit up when he spoke of it, the past brushing against him like a familiar breeze. Where's home now? I asked. He shrugged, looking ahead. Nowhere I'd really call home. Just places I stop in between. That answer lingered between us. I sensed a reluctance to root himself, to be known fully. But then again, wasn't I doing the same? My apartment was packed in boxes, my future unclear, and everything I once believed steady had slipped through. My fingers, he asked about me next, not out of politeness, but with genuine interest. I hesitated, then spoke. I lived with someone once, thought it was going to last. He didn't interrupt, just watched quietly. We were together almost 3 years. I came home one day, and he was gone. No note, no call, just vanished, like love could evaporate overnight. That's brutal, Jay said softly. Did he ever explain? Not really, I replied. I tried reaching out, but he blocked me everywhere. I guess silence was his answer. Jay didn't respond right away. The stillness between us was heavy, not uncomfortable, but heavy with understanding. Eventually he said, that kind of betrayal, it doesn't just take someone away. It takes parts of you with it. I looked at him, startled by how accurately he'd put it. I nodded. I don't think I've really let anyone in since. You just did, he said, smiling faintly. I wanted to hold on to that line, tuck it somewhere safe. I wasn't used to being seen, not without effort, not like this. The train slowed slightly as we passed through a small town. He turned to the window, but kept speaking. I was with someone, too. Not long ago, it was complicated. How so? He exhaled. Let's just say I wasn't who they expected me to be. The answer was vague, but it stirred something in me. I could feel the edge of a truth he wasn't ready to name. Maybe he had his own heartbreak, tucked away behind smiles and casual charm. Maybe he was still bleeding in places I couldn't see. We didn't say much for a while after that. The rhythm of the train became a third presence in the space we shared, steady and soothing. Our shoulders brushed occasionally as we shifted in our seats. I didn't pull away. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a crumpled packet of mints, offering me one. I don't usually accept candy from strangers, I said, half smiling. Then I guess I'll have to stop being a stranger, he replied. That earned a quiet laugh from me, and I took the mint. Later, he pulled out his phone and played a song, holding one earbud out to me without a word. I took it. The melody was slow and melancholic, all piano and echo, like the sound of missing someone you shouldn't still miss. We listened in silence. Eyes forward, the music wrapping around the space like a whispered confession neither of us wanted. To make a loud asterisk as the train neared the next station, his stop, he told me there was a subtle shift in him. He checked his watch, tucked the earbuds away, and looked at me with something unreadable in his eyes. Will I see you again? I asked before I could talk myself out of it. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. How about next weekend? Same train, same seat, promise? Promise, he said, rising slowly. Gathering his bag, I watched him walk down the aisle, pause at the door, and turn back. Don't forget me, Eli. Then he was gone. I stared at the empty seat beside me. The warmth of our shared silence still lingered, but already I missed it. For the rest of the journey, I replayed every glance, every smile, every unanswered question. Part of me told myself not to fall so easily, not again. But another part, the part still aching for something real, hoped. Asterisk, I told myself it was just a moment, a train ride. Nothing more, but something inside whispered that it wasn't, that maybe this time things would be different. The following weekend arrived with the same gray skies and quiet anticipation. I boarded the train early, choosing the same seat, the same window, the same coffee and hand-hoping routine would summon him back. My eyes scanned every figure that stepped aboard, heart ticking faster with each passing minute. And then, just as the doors began to close, he appeared hair damp from a light rain. Jacket creased like he'd worn it for days. Asterisk, he spotted me instantly, his lips curling into a lopsided smile that tugged at something inside me. I returned it, unsure whether it meant relief or something deeper I didn't dare name. Asterisk, you waited, he said, dropping into the seat across from me. Asterisk, you promised. I replied. Asterisk, Jay leaned forward, forearms resting on his knees. I wasn't sure if you'd come. Asterisk, neither was I admitted. But here we are. Asterisk, there was an ease between us again, though now tempered with expectation. Last time had been spontaneous, fleeting. This time felt intentional. The air between us hummed with unspoken questions. Asterisk, how was your week? I asked. Asterisk, he tilted his head, long, messy, some things caught up with me. Asterisk, what kind of things? Asterisk, he looked out the window, fingers tapping restlessly on the edge of the seat. I told you I left someone behind. I didn't tell you they still call, still ask where I am. Asterisk, my throat tightened. And what do you tell them? Asterisk, that I'm busy, that I'm thinking, that I need space. Asterisk, is that the truth? Asterisk, he paused, then looked at me. Some of it. But I think the truth changes, depending on who's asking. I wasn't sure whether that was wisdom or warning. I don't want to be anyone's second choice. I said quietly. Asterisk, you're not. He answered quickly. Too quickly. Asterisk, the train rocked gently as it picked up speed. Our reflections floated in the glass, me staring forward, him slightly turned toward me, jaw tense. There was something about the way he looked, then guarded, but afraid I'd walk. A way that made me ache. Asterisk, I don't need you to be perfect, I said. Just honest. Asterisk, Jay nodded slowly. Then I'll try. Asterisk, it was the kind of answer I should have questioned more. But instead I let it settle. Asterisk, he changed the subject then, launching into a story about a strange dream he had, something about running barefoot through a city with no people, just lights flickering on and off. I laughed when he described the absurd ending, and for a moment the tension cracked, spilling light between us. Asterisk, but the closer we came to his station, the more distant he became. His words grew shorter, his eyes flickering toward the clock. I could feel him pulling away again, like tide drawn back by the moon. Asterisk, what happens when you get off today? I asked. Asterisk, he looked at me for a long time. I go back to a life I'm trying to unmake. Asterisk, does that life have someone in it? Asterisk, yes, he said, voice low, but not in the way you think. Asterisk, I swallowed hard. Then in what way? Asterisk, he leaned back, exhaling. It's complicated, Asterisk. You keep saying that. Asterisk, because it is, he snapped, then immediately softened. Sorry, I didn't mean to. It's just, there's history. And guilt. And I don't know how to untangle it all without hurting someone. Asterisk, someone like me? Asterisk, he didn't answer. He didn't need to. Asterisk, the silence that followed was heavier than any argument, and yet I stayed. I watched the town edge into view through the window, buildings rising like judgment. His stop was minutes away. Asterisk, I like being with you, Eli, he said suddenly. I like who I am when I'm near you. But that's not enough, I said, barely above a whisper. He nodded, eyes fixed on mine. Maybe not, but it's real. Asterisk, the train began to slow. He stood lingering in the aisle. I wanted to reach out, to ask him to stay, but I didn't. Instead, I said the only thing that mattered. Asterisk, don't come back if you're just going to keep leaving. He flinched, nodded once, and stepped off the train. This time, he didn't look back. Asterisk, I sat there long after the platform faded behind us. My chest felt hollow, not from absence, but from knowing something had been offered and refused. I didn't know if I'd see him again. Part of me hoped I wouldn't, because the truth of him had begun to hurt more than the idea of him, asterisk. But hope doesn't always listen to reason, asterisk, and somewhere, buried beneath disappointment, it still flickered, asterisk, too. Weeks passed. The seat across from me remained empty, asterisk. I still took the train same time, same route, half out of habit, half out of hope. I told myself I liked the journey, the rhythm, the stillness between places, but that was only partly true. The truth was, I kept looking for Jay in every pair of eyes that glanced my way. I searched for the way he slouched into the seat, the way his smile curled slowly, like it was deciding whether to stay, but he didn't come back. I should have expected that. I should have known better than to invest in a maybe. Still, I carried his name around like a secret in my chest. Sometimes when the train crossed the river, I'd imagine him out there somewhere, trying to untangle whatever life he couldn't let go of. Asterisk one afternoon, when the sky threatened rain and the train was unusually full, I took a seat near the back. I wasn't looking anymore, not really. I'd begun to tell myself it had been a moment, one of those strange, fleeting connections meant to remind you that you can still feel something, even if it doesn't last. Asterisk. Then I looked up, and there he was, standing at the end of the aisle, eyes scanning the rows until they landed on mine. He didn't smile this time. He just walked over and sat beside me, slowly, like he wasn't sure if he belonged there anymore. Asterisk. I thought you weren't coming back, I said, my voice quiet. Asterisk. I almost didn't, he replied, but I couldn't stop thinking about this. Asterisk. I turned to face him, my heart already bracing for what he'd say next. What changed? Asterisk. I told him. Jay said. The truth, all of it. Asterisk. I studied his face, and asterisk. He didn't take it well. He said I was confused, that I was running. Maybe he's right. But I knew staying would have been the real lie. I felt something shift inside me, relief tangled with fear. Why tell me this now? I asked, asterisk, because I need you to know I chose this. You, not as an escape, not because it was easy, but because it felt honest. Asterisk. A silence settled between us, but it wasn't heavy like before. It felt tentative, fragile, like we were both holding something we didn't quite know how to carry yet. Asterisk. I don't know what this is, I said. I don't even know if I can trust it. Asterisk. I get that, he replied. I'm not asking you to trust all of me. Just today. Just this seat. Asterisk. I looked at him, really looked, and saw someone different from the boy who first sat across from me, charming and unreadable. This Jay had edges, scars, a past he wasn't hiding anymore. Asterisk. But still, the ache of his absence hadn't faded easily. You hurt me? I said plainly. He nodded. I know, asterisk, and I can't just pretend that didn't happen. Asterisk. I don't expect you to, he said. I'd like the chance to stay, this time properly. Asterisk. The train rolled forward. Outside the window, the landscape blurred, trees and fields and endless sky. Inside, time slowed. Everything in me wanted to protect what little peace I had reclaimed. But a quieter part, the one that still remembered the weight of his voice in my chest, whispered to let him try. Asterisk. Then stay, I said. But don't make promises you can't keep. Asterisk. I won't, he said. No more promises, just presence. Asterisk. We sat in silence, side by side, no contact, no performance. Just breath and space and possibility. Asterisk. Eventually, he turned toward me again, voice softer. Do you ever think about the first time we met? On the train? All the time, I admitted. He smiled, small, real. You looked so guarded, like you'd built walls out of silence. Asterisk. And you leaned over them like they weren't even there. Asterisk. I was afraid you'd push me away. Asterisk. I almost did. Asterisk. But you didn't, he said. And that made all the difference. Asterisk. I leaned back, closing my eyes briefly. The carriage hummed around us. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was waiting for something. I was already in it. Asterisk when I opened my eyes, he was still there, looking forward, breathing beside me. Not trying to fix anything, just sharing the moment, and maybe that was enough for now, because sometimes love doesn't arrive in grand gestures or perfect timing. Sometimes it sits beside you quietly, carrying its past and hoping for a future. And sometimes that's where healing begins.